They make too much sense. They're boring.
Hello and welcome to Eastern Marshlands, an evening with comrades. And tonight, we have a little addition because my friend has given us permission to use his album as background music, and it should be in the background. If I need to change it, let me know. But tonight we have myself, Dipdap, Königsmark,
Hello.
Theo,
Hello.
and returning Celt, Crypto. Alright. The link to the album on Spotify will be in the description if you want to check it out after the show. Alright, so shall we get into our first topic, which is going to be on the German shooting in Hanau.
Yeah, I've read up on that.
Alright, let's have you lead it then.
Yeah, so, there was a shooting, I think, yesterday,
Yeah, it was.
yesterday,
No, actually, no, it was two days ago.
Yeah, in the Hanau, or Hanau actually, where a man marched into two separate shisha bars. If you're all familiar with what that is,
Yes.
it's basically just a place you can. Yeah, it's not important. Point is, it's a hot spot for like migrants. Because it's like an imported thing from like Middle Eastern cultures that used to be like that's something we imported from like
Yeah.
Arab culture, Turkish culture. So he went there and shot a bunch of people, and well, he hold on.
I think killed 9?
Yeah, I'm trying to look that up.
Nine
right
shot dead in town of Hanau.
Yeah.
Someone the BBC interviewed says it was a shock but not a surprise.
Yeah. And I would like to expand on that if we have the it's honestly kind of scary how like terrifyingly normalized racist conduct is in Central Europe.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
depends obviously on where you are. It's like in rural areas like here, it is honestly just disgusting. You know, you have places like Vienna where it's good, where like shit like that doesn't fly. I mean, I'd hope mass shootings don't fly, but you know what I mean.
Right.
But like in more rural places, it is terrible, and it has been terrible since the whole refugee crisis started in like 2015, and it's just people have revealed they're worse than that those 5 years. It's calmed down a bit because people got bored. Honestly, that's
that's
basically what happened.
that's the only reason, basically.
Yeah, like that's.
People picked up new conspiracies. They moved up to like anti-Semitism, lot of them, and then it got boring.
Well, because it's just the scapegoat. It's a fucking. It's just a fucking dipshit like excuse. Like divert your.
Yeah, and the thing is with far-right terrorism, like, I'm not sure if you guys remember Sadiq Khan, who's the current mayor of London. There was a quote that he was taken out of context, and the quote was, "Terrorism is part and parcel of living in a big city." And again, this quote was taken way out of context, but the fucking fury and anger that so many people felt at that, it kind of like, here's the thing: far-right terrorism has become the norm in Europe. Like, it is, without a doubt, it is the norm in Europe, in America too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you never see anyone talking about it. Like, no one at all talks about far-right terrorism. No one cares about far-right terrorism, and especially not in rural areas as well. And again,
Yeah,
I say
'cause
this
they're all,
yeah.
like, I'm gonna just throw this out there. The reason that no one cares about it in rural areas is because, like, knowing people like that, half of them secretly think that it was a good thing that it happened and that they should have killed them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth noting as well is that the day after the shooting in Germany happened, the morning after, and a man walked into a mosque in London. I forget where it was, but somewhere in England, and stabbed the imam, who I believe was in his 70s. Well, no, it's not the imam, the muezzin, I think, the one who does the call to prayer, and stabbed this old man. Who, and this is the thing, and the thing is, like, far right terrorism is now the norm. I cannot overstate that enough. It is the, and here's about it, and specifically in Germany, if you go back a couple of years to the Nationalsozialist Untergrund
The
bombing,
Oh yeah.
the NSU bombings,
Mhm.
the German police were actually revealed to be in league with the NSU.
It's
They provided-
actually
they
even
provided with-
worse. It's actually even worse than just being in league with them. See, the fucking how do I put this? What were they called? It was the BND, the Bundesnachrichtendienst, who's basically like the FBI, right?
Mhm.
Actually, they're more like the CIA. Now that I think about it, they're the CIA for domestic affairs, basically.
The spooks.
Yeah, they're fucking stupid. So essentially what happened was, like, they needed informants. So they get these recruited members of fascist organizations, not for a moment thinking that maybe they were still, holding
Fascists?
those loyalties, and sent them, like, money. So instead of actually doing anything,
They just use
they
the
were-
money.
See, it's not just that they're evil. They're evil and fucking stupid. And then they tried to cover it up to the point where the BKA, who are actually like the FBI in Germany, had to come in and clean up their mess by raiding the fucking B&D.
And how many
okay,
guns did the people have? Like, how
Well,
much
the-
weaponry did the fascists have at that point?
Oh, like they had entire arsenals. But like the
Yeah.
thing, the real funny thing, to get that data for the court, the Bundeskriminalamt had to raid the BND, like the CIA basically.
Jesus
Had to raid their
Christ.
headquarters
Why are they like
and
this?
like take all their because they're fucking stupid. Because they
I know.
okay.
I know
So
they're fucking dumb.
the BND was created out of was created in the 50s out of a mixture of old quote unquote clean SS members and old Gestapo spooks.
Clean SS members.
That is the I'm not shitting you. That is the literal term used by the occupation forces.
All right, I'm not
So-
gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I heard clean ass members.
Same thing. But
pretty much.
So you're. What the fuck? I mean, we all know that
Yeah.
like a lot of the occupation stuff
Yeah.
is like farcical and like absolutely fucking like for show, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
Mm.
It's very funny because the BKA is full of old Stasi members. So, like, there's this joke among like people in the German region where it's like the Stasi did a raid on the Gestapo headquarters. It's a funny meme
Mm-hmm.
because it's not wrong technically.
Right.
Like the
Yeah.
old head of the like the old head of the fucking regional Stasi in Berlin is now the head of the Bundeskriminalamt, which is the Federal Bureau of Criminal Investigation. So yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
when I had to
So the whole
explain-
situation.
Hmm?
No, I was gonna say the whole situation in Germany is fucked. Like the police
and-
are. The police are openly in alliance with the fascists, openly work with the fascists, and fucking. The thing is like, German Antifa, for all the good work they do have, like, it's either they're closet anti-Semites or they're Zionists.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously regional differences there,
Yeah.
Horseshoe
and like
theory,
if cities
horseshoe-
have,
I
if
mean,
like
what's the
cities have
difference between
strong
like?
anti-racist traditions on their own, like say Vienna, Bremen, Berlin, uh, like in those cities, there tends to be like solidarity defense.
Mhm.
Obviously, not enough in a lot of places, but uh, I remember that there were many times both in like uh Vienna and interestingly in Munich, which is strange considering that's a bit of a hellhole. Um, black blocs formed these like massive protection rings around mosques after the like slew of hate crimes in mid 2015.
Mhm.
God. Like, here's the thing: is like that shit is actually fucking fire. But I just wish, I fucking wish that cunts in the UK and America would do the exact same thing.
It's just a big thing. I think is just the way that the like. See, we're obviously all alienated from politics in electoral systems, but the thing is, in the way that it works here, it's pretty easy and just normal to get yourself engaged in local politics. It's harder
Mhm.
to do that with the way that it works in like Britain or
America.
the US. So
Because you
that's
guys have a
why,
federal.
yeah, I mean we do too, but like the thing is, um, I suppose to an extent we're very small,
You don't have
and
a huge fucking population.
yeah, like a huge thing. It's very funny. We are a large, like the US considered us a security risk for a long time because we were a country with a small population that wasn't all that rich, which in their eyes meant that we were politically unstable
Hmm.
because if you got 8 million people, even if you have a shitty electoral system, it's not that hard to convince 8 million people versus say 100 million. You know, the
Or
Progressive
political,
350 million.
yeah, political, like the political dialectic, it accelerates periodically in Austria, and then it just falls back over and people fall asleep again. It's
I mean, it's the kind of the same here thing here. Like, yeah.
yeah. How's that going? That whole uh, racism in the Czech Republic. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
It's going really strong right now.
Big win in the battle of ideas.
Mm, yeah, but the thing is, like, there was this like hilarious article that I read about like last week that the racists have defeated themselves by winning, because what
Yeah,
happened that all the the vile racist people just got their ideas to be like accepted a lot, and what happened is that the mainstream parties just took them and they ended up losing a lot of money and not getting anywhere with their like personal careers.
see,
I
I
think
I
it's
really like the analysis that I forget his name. There's this political analyst that works for the uh Austrian Broadcasting Services, the ORF. And he put out the following, like when he was analyzing this, like the refugee crisis, he was doing like a look back in like 2018, and he said like a phrase that really stuck with me. It's um uh r- racist people and fascists and Nazis, um unless they can violently seize power, unless they can actually seize control of both the state apparatus and the military, which the people in 2014, 2015 absolutely were not in any position to do that.
Right.
Um, what happens is their ideas become accepted, and we do what they demanded, and then life doesn't improve for the people in the ways that they promised, and then
Yeah.
things either turn more violent or people just turn away from them, and in this case, both things happened.
Yes.
That's
Well,
very
I think-
true.
I think it would probably be at this point a good idea to go on to talk about what should be our response, what should we do, what should be
About like the shooting and the fascists in general,
Ab-
and racism and
about the shooting and just about fascist terrorism in general. Because like I think because of the topic coming up later on, I think it might be a good idea to actually
Yeah.
separate
Right.
just general racism from actual fascist terrorism.
right.
I'm gonna say something maybe a bit well, maybe not controversial, but something that our fellow NEETs might not be too happy to do with. Like if you have, like, first of all, obviously organized, but if you have like a small group, reach out to your local group, because there's always organized groups of like minorities. Reach out to them, try and help them. A lot of them have their own initiatives to protect themselves, and they would probably appreciate the help and effort with shit like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like solidarity. Speak to your fellow man. They will appreciate it.
Yeah, that goes kind of hand in hand with community building, and I think that's a really
Yeah.
important aspect. Because obviously, building community is a very important aspect of anarchism and just of leftism. And when it comes to dealing with with the actual fascist, with actual incidents and stuff like, it's one of those things. Because obviously, if you hear that a terrorist attack has happened on the television or on the radio and you're within a stone's throw of it, it's one of those situations where do not get in the fucking police or medic workers' way because you'll probably just hinder. And if you're in the way of the cops, you'll probably end up getting shot, especially if it's the fucking armed cops.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in the case of a terrorist attack, it usually is.
Yeah, and
Granted, not without reason.
Here they're all
But the thing
armed
is-
cops, so I mean,
the most important thing you can probably do is keep an eye on various fascist organizations that look likely to commit acts of terror. Note names, note faces,
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing is if an organization that is engaged, like it might be engaged in terrorism or violence of some kind, take a leaf out of the fucking corpse book and take a can. And the thing is with a lot of far right groups in Central Europe, especially, they don't cover their face.
No.
They don't cover their faces at all, largely because they've got no need to, because the cops are fucking supporting. But the thing is, I think this is, and even in the Nordic countries as well, fascists don't cover their faces. In Central Europe, they don't cover their face, aside from a few groups here and there of people who like to copy
Yeah.
the black. But I think that's a very important thing to do as well, is just find out who your local fascists.
yeah, catalog them, know who they are. I
Mhm.
want to give a quote.
I would like to point out that the problem with containing like racist violence is the fact that, other than say, like leftist terrorism, it usually, not usually, it can also regularly be individual violence,
Mhm.
because fascists genuinely believe that can change something.
Yeah, they fascists have a cult of action.
Yeah.
Action. The thing is, no, they do believe these things will change them, right? But everything else at the end of this, there's a little an end, like a little start of that. It doesn't matter if it does or not, because they're doing something, and doing something is their ideology. They are do something-ists.
Yeah. Which is why Mussolini was.
Yeah, I don't give a damn is the thing the black shirts wore.
Yeah. And
Um,
like contrast that with, say, well, what's a good example? Like the fucking black blocs running around in Greece, assassinating local Golden Dawn members. Like,
Fat. Yeah, gang.
like that's a directed effort by an organized group. In that case, usually to prevent Golden Dawn from doing,
very bad things.
Yeah. In the
minor
case of-
things like bombing market squares or shooting up churches and shit because
In the case,
yeah.
in the case of that incident, that was a retaliatory attack after the rapper Pavlos Fissas, also known as Killer P, was assassinated by 3 Golden Dawn members in a bar in, I think it was Athens. Yeah, so there is also the kind of thing. There's targeting civilians and then there's targeting leftists.
Uh,
The thing,
Yeah.
the thing is, like with targeting leftists, that kind of it warrants an active response. Well, not even then. I'd say both of them warrant an active response, but people are more likely to go about carrying out an active response directly
they
to
warrant
fascists.
an organized response.
Yeah.
Organizers.
Like that's the important thing. Like don't just go out and shoot something up that's stupid and isn't gonna change anything. Like as I've said, the most important thing, the black blocs don't like
We don't.
because of the inexperience of certain American groups. People have this idea in their head that what the black bloc does is go around like street corners and smashing shop windows. No, most of the time what they do is do things like form protective rings about, say, migrant
Yeah.
homes, mosques, fucking community centers, anywhere where vulnerable and minority groups coalesce and like try to be, or just live. Because fascists will often come to try and set those on fire, or in the case of what happened a few years back in the massacre in Denmark, if anyone still remembers that,
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
an armed group of fascists marched in there, dragged people out by their hair, and executed them on fucking national television.
Or talk about Anders Breivik or anyone like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Exact.
and what the Black Bloc does is they form these protective rings. They, we come together and we stop them from getting in and hurting people. That's what that's the main purpose of that
Yeah.
is. And before any fucking resistant dipshits who misread Bordiger
Who
come in
misread
and
him.
tell us,
Who misread
but
him.
you see, this doesn't achieve communism, so it's useless.
well, the point is to protect people. Have we forgotten that we are supposed to be a movement for that is attempting
Exactly.
to advance human welfare?
Yeah. And the whole,
I would just add that like fascists winning moves us more away from communism than less. So shut the fuck up.
yeah.
I
That's-
want
and
to offer
that's-
a quote from my friend who does infiltrate fascist organizations. I interviewed them for the video that's coming up, but I want to offer one piece of what she said about it. Mind you, she was raised by, like, the children of a high-ranking SS soldier who were still Nazis and still are today. She's a communist now, but what she's told me was, the most important thing to remember about diehard neo-Nazis and fascists is one thing. These people are terrified when push comes to shove. They don't want to adapt to a changing world out of fear. They're afraid of people that are different, ideas that are different, and the like, because they're afraid of change that would upset their sensibility, security, and safety in the world. It's much like dealing with petulant, angry children. Once you know what you're dealing with, you can handle it effectively. They're far more afraid of you than you'll ever be of them. End quote.
Yeah, like this is important. The Nazis, won because they were able to exert this power over, like this actual institutional and state power over their state.
Mm-hmm.
Your average person, like, usually doesn't care. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Your average person doesn't genuinely believe that the Jews are at fault with everything. The thing is, if the system is that's what the system tells you to accept, then
To
You're
accept.
more likely to do it
Seven-
because that's how
about
ruling
nine-
ideology works.
about 90% of all people are conformists.
Right.
You look at any revolution, civil war in history, it was always like 5% versus other 5% of like the population actively engaging in anything, be it violent or non-violent. The other 90% were bystanders, and they didn't care. Well,
Right.
perhaps not that they didn't care, but they would just take whatever comes.
Yeah, that's
Most people are fine as long as they get their daily bread.
Yeah.
yeah. It's like again, bread and circuses.
Mm-hmm.
Bread and circuses is probably the best way to put it. So long as someone is fed, has a home, has heating, and can live comfortably, they don't care about the outside world.
Yeah, but I think the point is work together with people, uh, a lot of minority groups, like the fucking Kurdish Association or the uh, Arab Association or the fucking local Islamic communities usually have their own little like public outreach programs. If you have like say a small group, you can get in touch with them and talk to them, have a dialogue, and you know protect your fellow man, protect your fellow people in the cities and the streets. Like, yeah.
And if your community is under attack, then defend it.
Mm-hmm.
if like say for example, if a fascist if there's a fascist organization or a fascist march in the aftermath of a terrorist attack in the town or city where it happened, shut that shit the fuck down.
Oh yeah, that
Don't
actually
give them a
happened before.
single fucking in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I remember after
in
Paris happened as
yeah,
well.
and so after Hanau here, there was like a small like, Pegida tried to hold a rally, in like, not in Hanau, they didn't get a permit for that, but like 2 cities over, they tried to rally. About 20 people showed up, and after there was a massive counter protest, like,
Yeah.
of about, I think, close to 10,000 people.
See,
At which point
the-
the cops just kind of went home.
yeah, the sad thing is like even though that happens, then like Central Europe, where people are actually have the guts and the ability to go like maybe
It's a
10,
cultural
15
thing,
meters
yeah.
away. Yeah, in the
Because-
UK, and not even in the UK, most of mainstream anti-fascist organisations like Unite Against Fascism, fucking Stand Up to Rape, they will organise a protest 2 or 3 miles away from where the fascist protest is happening.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Like, because the thing
Yeah.
about anti-fascist protest in Europe is that it is what the textbook definition of Antifa is. It's not even like organizations that hold these rallies. It's just average,
Anti-fascists.
yeah, average fucking people, like going out having their rallies, and that's why the cops can't stop it, because it's fucking 5% of the whole fucking city's population.
Yeah, though again, that's in Central Europe. It's just trying to.
Yeah,
Well, you can't really, you can't really emulate that anywhere else,
Yeah.
unless in other places that don't have a really strong anti-fascist militant cult.
Yeah, it's something that has been systematically like mauled to death by British administrations from the 1930s. I mean, Cable Street terrified the British administration because it was just the city of London coming together to beat one man up they didn't like.
And his organization.
Yeah.
I think, coming to the subject of I'm wondering how much longer on this topic should we go?
I think we should head on to the Russian prisons.
Yeah.
Yes. Sponsorship message or anything beforehand, Dip, or do you just want me to fire?
I guess we should say, if you are enjoying the show, you can donate in the description to our Patreon, or you can donate to us with the super chat, and you will get like a little thing on the side that will show us. So like a super chat donation would be like, Comrade John donated Australian dollars $28 to our cause. If you would like to, and you get a message and everything. So next up is Russian prisons.
Okay, so comrades, this is actually a pretty big story. This has been ongoing for about, you're talking maybe 2.5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, in Russia, there has recently been, in recent years, there's been a massive witch hunt rather, against Russian anti-fascists and Russian anarchists, because honestly, they represent one of the greatest threats to Putin's
Mm-hmm.
rule. Now, the most recent example of this case was in a case called the SIT, or the network case, where a number of Russian anti-fascists were arrested illegally. They were brought into FSB interrogation stations. They were tortured with electricity, like they were tortured with electric wires, beatings, and as well as psychological torture. And on and this has been ongoing for the past couple of years. And some of these people who have been tortured are younger than 18.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just pull up a news article right here. And yeah, so basically the trial of the so-called network, which again was, honestly, I'm gonna go on record as to say that Putin probably made this whole fucking shit up, and that
Mm-hmm.
these people were not involved in any terror. They were Prosecutors said plan to carry out future attacks inside Russia to overthrow the government, and they were apparently charged with an assortment of weapons and drug charges. You probably, from my understanding, that'll probably mean like batons, knuckle dusters, and as for the drugs, probably just marijuana or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the verdicts of this case, right? Dmitry Pichelintsev, who is 27, he's an anti-fascist activist from Penza, was sentenced to 18 years in prison for allegedly creating this organization called the Network. And he apparently admitted to he was forced into giving a confession after being detained and tortured with electricity by security officers. He described clenching his teeth from the pain and his mouth being full of blood. And on top of that, there was, and this is okay, so one of them was sentenced to 18 years. There were 6 others on, and they were given terms of from 6 to 18 years in penal colonies. So, and no one, to what I know, barely any organization in the West, in like with the exception of German anti-fascists who have been carrying out a campaign
they're
of
in,
solidarity with them for a
like this very funny parallel. The German state has strange ties to the Russian state, and
yeah.
German activists have very, very, very close ties to activists in Russia.
What
But
countries
I
still
think
use
this.
penal colonies?
Oh yeah, that's something I actually wanted to talk about at some point. Like the Gulag still exists. Did you
Yes,
know
they
that?
do. They fucking do, and I think we could actually maybe. First of all, I would like to. I think it's important that we give our solidarity and our salute to our imprisoned comrades, and also our condolences to their families. I think it's also important now to talk to be raising awareness of this, because again, I've barely seen anyone from America or Canada talk about this case where anti-fascists have been given draconian jail sentences on trumped-up charges. And then this is the thing: you can fucking bet your bottom dollar that both these, like the Western governments, that specifically France, America, and Britain, are going to be looking at this case with a hell of a lot of interest to see in how they can deal with anti-fascists.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in Portland, well, in Oregon, for example, there's a law going through the Oregon state, uh, which would basically criminalize anyone wearing a face mask to approach and
We already
punish it
have
up
that.
with.
We've had that for 60 years.
But I think it is also important as well to actually discuss state repression, what it looks like, and how we can subvert.
Well, also about the face mask ban.
This
the funny
this
thing
reminds
is-
me one.
The funny thing about
Sorry, go on.
about the face mask ban is it's happened in a lot of the southern states because they were originally used as anti-Klan laws.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
But
this
here's how
new
you dodge that. Usually, bunch up.
A lot of people. They can't arrest us all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bunch up and hold on tight to the people around you, because if you're just this
Don't get
massive
separate.
fucking
They can't
Like-
arrest us
Well,
all!
like,
They
no,
can
it's also
arrest-
like if you hold on to each other like that, like they can't pull people out because they will just get fucking yeeted on.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
that's,
though-
yeah.
EML does not advocate use of violence.
Yes,
That's-
but
that's
also
Let's say this every
this,
fucking time.
This
That's
case-
not even violence. That's like bunch up so you don't get pulled up by the cops. That's
this Russian case actually reminds me of one thing that's been going on in the Czech Republic for a while. It's the Phoenix trials, in which the cops decided that they actually need to do something, so they invented this Phoenix group, which was like a radical anarchist network, which was basically just their informants pulling few people together, and then they attacked possibly the police informants, but that is not true. Then they like threw a Molotov cocktail on like a empty decommissioned train car, and then
oh
they
yeah,
tried,
I
and then
remember
they
that.
tried to do like get people arrested on like a terrorism organization charges, and they used like bullshit. Do you know the smell evidence? I don't know how you would translate it. It was used by the Stasi, invented it,
Yeah.
and we basically use like police dogs to like compare how people smell,
Yeah.
and it actually doesn't work. That's the thing. They did
Yeah.
like tests. It just like
Doesn't work.
Yeah,
That-
no,
the-
it's,
the
it's
thing is, like-
literally just yeah.
it's spirit science. Literally, the dog
It's
doesn't
spirit
understand.
science! It's like criminal theosophy.
Yeah, because the problem is that the dog doesn't understand
Yeah.
science or evidence or the court. The dog,
That's a
the
great
dog,
book.
the dog doesn't believe
I
in
could-
the.
Dog doesn't believe in
logs.
science.
I could I'm just gonna throw a quick little thing in here.
You know, this
She
actually
blinded me
calls
with
back.
science.
If they if
The-
wait if they
This
do
calls
it,
back. This calls back to the fucking German B&D versus the BKA. So in like this wasn't very heavily publicized because it was suppressed for the German state because of how embarrassing it was. But essentially, the Bundeskriminalamt arrested essentially whom they suspected to be a domestic terrorist organization. Like it was this weird ass like esoteric quote unquote Atomwaffen splinter group. It turns out that they were all B&D informants, all of them. Every single member of that organization was a B&D informant.
this is like
I
how
think it's
this is like the CPUSA.
Yeah. The funny like big brain thing is like, so they did this like fake terrorist attack against this fake anarchist organization that was also created by the B&D. I don't even remember what their intended purpose was. So essentially, they sent their informants to attack their other informants, to get dirt on these other informants. And when the BKA arrested some of them because, you know, they were setting shit on fire, it was like, oh no, we're all feds. It's fine, we're all feds.
God. I think
The thing with the Phoenix operation is that the way it ended was that the court just told them to fuck off because it was so bad. It was
it's
so
also
bad. So they tried to do something else. They there was this website that was like publishing basic like anarcho-nihilist.
Yeah.
I think it's
Alright.
it is definitely I think it's definitely just a personal plea from me to you, comrades, if you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Do not think that police and state repression in the West is gonna get any better
It's gonna get
because it
worse.
won't. It's just
It's
gonna
get
it's
worse.
gonna keep getting worse and
They're
worse
gonna
and worse.
learn. They're gonna learn from
And-
this mistake. They're gonna arrest all the retarded people.
Yeah, and as well, don't think voting for sock Dems is
Don't
gonna
vote.
change their opinion.
Don't vote.
Don't vote.
Don't vote.
Burn the ballot boxes.
Don't
Burn your
vote.
fucking
Don't
ballot.
vote.
And
Based on the federal level. Like,
not even on the federal level,
and,
Just don't
and
vote.
local level.
actively engage in local politics. That's another thing. As in,
Go-
like,
Go to strikes. Radicalized people. Don't vote.
yeah,
And I think as well,
get your
you
get your
need
local
to-
mayor to read marks.
Help people.
You also
don't
need-
vote.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the whole thing is, especially with state repression in the United States, it is only going to be a matter of time before one of these trigger-happy jackasses that are in the American police start opening fire on
Protesters.
anti-fascist
Yeah.
protesters. And the thing is, honestly, I say this every single time I come on, and that is prepare for the worst. And like, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Because if we get caught off guard and the state starts rolling out all these counter-insurgency, counter-protest attack, we won't stand a chance.
Honest,
Yeah,
I think one other thing, if you are at one of those like gun mad places like the US, be prepared to like be prepared to the possibility to having to shoot back. I think
yeah.
that's
I
a
mean,
that's an
it is
option.
also like you may actually legitimately have to defend your homestead. So,
yeah, defend
just saying.
yourself, defend your comrades against everyone. Like, I don't like. Do not care if they're fascists or if they're cops. A cop is just a fascist with a uniform.
Yep.
Protect your comrades, protect your communities, and honestly, right. So, if shit gets really, really bad, and I mean really bad, as in like, no communications platform is safe. What that I can highly recommend for comrades who want to keep things on the down low and kind of without any evidence. WICK, download that, and that works. It works a fucking charm because you need a password to get into it first. You also the messages also auto delete after 5 days.
Yeah. Remember, this is more on a very interesting note on how to, like, I know obviously people in the US don't have this luxury, but people in like Western Europe, like once things go bad, those measures are going to come in. But because they are not going to de-escalate the situation, quite the contrary, it's not going to help them. Like, you know how when the French state started to capsize a little, they tried to ban public assembly. You guys remember that? And all it did was balloon these mass protests in size.
Yeah,
Although, I mean, to be fair, trying to ban public assembly in France is like... Macron might have as well just shot himself in the balls, honestly.
and I think it's also important to say that if we go there will come a time, comrades. There will come a time when we are forced underground. There is no doubt about that. It is very, very important that once we are forced underground, we do not try pushing to become an above ground movement again, because that is danger.
That's how you lose.
Yeah, that's how you get cucked.
Like,
Yeah, Ernst Thälmann, guys, it's gonna work this time.
Guys, let's go become electoral socialists, guys.
yes,
Come on, guys, give in the vote. Give in the vote, guys.
apparently Yankee sock Dems didn't learn from Corbyn. Like, I'm just saying. I'm just fucking saying.
So them are actively anti-learning.
They're
Exactly.
anti-learning. The thing is that people don't realize, like people who are even okay with voting. I think what they forget is this: whatever these SOCDEMs propose, they're not gonna get it.
Or they will get it and it will be sabotaged from the start to the end, and it will be absolute horseshit.
In America, I hate to reference an Onion article here, but Bernie Sanders makes a last attempt plea to centrists by saying that his reforms would be watered down to mean nothing anyways. No, I'm anti-voting. Not just like I'm anti-voting in general. Help people, don't vote. Voting reifies the system and it makes it real. It's better to actually go out and help people and not vote because
Yeah.
voting is actively harmful in my opinion.
It, in my opinion, is as well. Like it sets us up for failure.
It
Yeah,
sets,
it sets us up to rely.
it sets a precedent.
And as far as it's like, you know, like people say, oh, it's harm reduction. Might be harm reduction for you. It's not harm reduction for people of color or
It's not harm
indigenous people.
reduction for queer people. It's not harm reduction for anyone else. It's only harm
No, no,
reduction
no, no.
for
It's
like
not
for,
even
like,
harm
the
reduction
dominant
for
group.
you. It's not
See,
even
no,
harm reduction for you.
Here's what you gotta do. Here's what you all gotta do in the US. You're gonna go to the ballot box, and you're gonna write in woke Calvin Coolidge 2020. Let's get
Woke
it going.
Calvin Coolidge 2020. Okay.
Yes.
That's all you have to do is go right in woke Calvin Coolidge 2020, and if you're in the UK, put in woke Winston Churchill, or like woke Neville Chamberlain.
Who's woke Neville Chamberlain?
A sack of potatoes. I don't fucking know.
I would have said Ed Miliband, but that's fair.
Same
No,
thing.
sorry.
Same thing.
Honestly, no, you're right. Woke. No, Ed Miliband is just a woke sack of potatoes. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Bono law.
but who's the woke Winston Churchill?
Who's the woke Winston
Anthony Eden.
I would have said. what
Nigel
was his name?
Farage.
What was
Jim
his name?
Sterling.
Pigfucker McGee. What was his name?
Yeah.
Attenborough.
Nah, David Cameron. That was it.
Yeah, David Cameron. He was the big fucker.
Yeah.
Which is how
He was the
even
big
before I really remember
Wait,
now.
He will always be remembered as the pig fucker. But on the subject of repression and the like in the United States and in the UK, I think that this also extends to any international volunteers who are presently in Syria. For those who are unaware, there is a British YPG volunteer who is presently fighting against jihadists in northern Syria. There have been YPG activists who have been YPG volunteers who have been arrested once they've returned into the UK on terrorism charges. But this is the case of the case that I'm talking is the case of Dan Newey, I think his name. His father has been arrested and charged with aiding a person in the act of terrorism, and his little brother, who is 19 years old, has been brought in and charged with the same thing. And again, to my knowledge, his family were completely against him going and don't support his decision to go. But the thing is, the British state wants to intimidate these, and that's another thing to remember with state repression. If you're not within reach, if you're not within reach, they will go after your after your family 100%.
Your family or friends, anyone in your who
Anyone
is
who
in
is
contact
like
with you,
anyone you care about.
anyone who they believe is in contact with you, that's another thing. They will because of the informant culture, they will just target random people because they will believe that.
It may not be arrest. It may be just harassment. It might be intimidation.
Or recruitment. They will attempt to
I
recruit
hate
them.
going back to this but it's the same thing where how the US couldn't find Osama bin Laden, so they beat up Saddam Hussein because we know where he is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was basically the rhetoric for the second invasion of Iraq. Oh, we gotta do something. We gotta take revenge. Yeah, on who? That's the problem with suicide attacks. Why? The leaders. Yeah, but we don't know where they are. Well, let's invade Iraq. Why? Did Saddam Hussein have something to do with it? No, but we know where he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
so, any final statements, I guess, on the Russian thing?
Solidarity with our comrades. Solidarity with our comrades in Eastern Europe and Russia who are undergoing massive fucking repression by the respect state.
No state is our friend. Remember, no state is our friend.
No state is our friend. And also, when it comes to state repression, do not rule anything out and prepare for the absolute worst. They will use your family as weapons. They will use anything they can against you as a weapon. Prepare for that eventuality because it is coming here.
And one thing to keep in mind, they will, like, when they go after you, they will lie, and they will lie at every turn, even when you believe that they are like telling you the truth. They are not telling you the truth. They are fucking lying all the way down.
They don't.
Bitches.
They don't know what they tell you they know.
Yeah.
Even if they do, act as if they don't.
So, oh yeah, this is if I may move on to something a bit different. France still escalating.
Still, oh boy.
So, this week, protesters have, or rather unions specifically, have occupied train depots and shut down about 30% of all industrial train traffic in southern France.
Mm-hmm.
It-
Ooh.
30% of industrial. You know what that includes? The European market shipments that go between Italy and Spain.
This reminds me of a semi-related thing I just want to mention. Comrades in Italy have shut down Genoan ports that would deliver weapons sold from Austria to and other places in the EU to the Saudi Arabians.
Oops.
And
Back at it
I think
again.
when we're on the subject of blocking infrastructure, I think it's definitely important that we mention the Wet'suwet'en direct actions that are going on in Canada right now.
Yeah, with
Where-
the natives.
Yeah, where indigenous people in Canada have been blocking railways, blocking bridges, and basically trying to bring the whole economy of the Canadian state to a
And Trudeau's
Call-
crying about it.
Yeah, because Canadian police are trying to invade native land. They are trying to invade native land for the purpose of building a pipeline right through it, because that's the order of the day. Pipelines through indigenous land.
It's another reminder.
You know what that reminds me
Canada
of?
is just as bad as America.
Yeah. They just have better PR,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
Same-
reminds
same-
me
same
that
kind of with Mexico.
yeah. So in Austria we have a sizable Slovenian minority in the
Right.
south, right? And like in the mid 2000s, the far right government was like, we're gonna like encroach on the land that they have majority in and just build shitty highways and like trailer parks there and like car parks and whatnot. So they started doing that, and there's this great meme that I absolutely love and is still used by so the Austrian, like in a lot of Austrian industrial action circles, the symbol for anarchy is not the black cat, it is a weasel. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because so there's a specific type of weasel that lives in our area, the marten, the martens, if you're familiar with those.
Yeah.
They live here and they have a very famous tendency to climb into car engines and bite through the cables. So they came there with their big construction equipment, left for the day. When they came back, all of their equipment didn't work because the weasels cut the wires.
Based.
Oh yeah,
Nature fights back.
because they like encroached on their territory and they were like, "Ooh, this is warm. This is food. I'm gonna eat this," and they just chewed everything up, like destroyed tires, stole equipment. It was amazing.
This is the modern version of the animal revolt in Lucretius's De Natura.
Yeah, and so ever since then, when we have marches, we fly a flag that just has
Oh,
a
weasel.
weasel biting. Yeah, like a weasel biting through a cable. It's
What, did anyone have any...
This reminds me. semi-related topic on the encroachment on like building pipelines. The EU, in its forever eternal bullshittery, has decided that in their like effort to like fight climate change or whatever, they are just full of shit again. So they decided they are now gonna extend several pipelines as part of their like, they've added it into the budget. So be prepared on like actions against that. One of them is like pipeline from the Czech Republic to Saxony. So also shut up. Like I see some pro EU rhetoric coming from the left, and just stop. Just it's just like no.
I guess.
To that, adding to that, there's like this, Sweden is basically just European Canada in that regard.
Right.
Yeah,
Because they're currently building these huge gas pipelines through Sami land.
Not again.
Yeah, so they can buy cheap gas from the Russians.
Of course. That's the same reason why this pipeline is being built. It all goes down to the Russians, because the fucking EU is incapable of growth without the Russians' resources.
I mean, they have to have more growth. They have to export more shit. That's imperialism. They have to export more capital.
Like, see, the EU. So are you guys familiar with what the old name for the EU was?
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so the old name for the EU. Hold on. Where was it?
The European Steel and Coal Society.
Yeah. It was essentially this. The idea of it as a supranational entity didn't emerge until like the mid '80s.
Yeah.
Like before that, it was literally just
trading block.
Common market for industrial goods, and that is very much still represented. The difference is that now it's no longer state entities like wanting to trade in the common market. It is literally just a special interest group for rich industrialists. Like, the EU is probably the worst modern European state entity. There's this incredibly funny irony. So if the EU was a state that wanted to join the EU, it would be denied on the grounds that it lacked any real democratic process.
I guess this is a good place to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But before that,
I think so.
I would like to, for everyone watching the YouTube stream right now, I'd like you all to know that we do have a SoundCloud and a Spotify. And for those listening on Spotify or SoundCloud, we have a YouTube. As well as to everyone, we invite you on to the Discord server. And I guess that's it. So now on to today's racism topic.
Today's racism topic. Yeah. There's a lot of those.
Oh yeah, but specifically, we are going to talk. Obviously, none of us are around what's going on in China right now. The coronavirus, the vast amount of fucking memes and the fucking playing down of it. It's fucking ridiculous. But the thing is, when a disease metastasizes a lot and a pandemic comes about, people often forget the sheer amount of racism that is directed towards the inhabitant of the country, the epicenter, and as well, not even just that, but as well anyone perceived to be of that ethnic descent. The sheer amount of racism that is directed towards them, especially in terms of pandemic, is atrocious. And the story that actually spurred us to talk on about this is that in Ukraine, people who have contracted coronavirus, I think I could be wrong. Convoys carrying these people out of the city towards hospitals, I believe, or towards a quarantine, were attacked with stones and with fucking like there's video footage of fires being set. Like it's fucking horrific. And the thing is, it's very important to talk about
Yeah.
how pandemics like this can seriously damage, again, a man's love for a fellow man and stuff. And I think it's definitely important to talk about how we can combat this and combat a lot of the racist narratives that come about as a result of viral infections and stuff.
Yeah, this happens like every time. This
Yeah.
happens. Like remember SARS and that
Yep.
shit.
Yeah.
Or like a bit of an older example, the Spanish flu. How like everyone for like a decade was deathly afraid of Spaniards because they thought they would die. Yeah. Okay.
This is just this is just swine flu with racism.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna put it to you like this. I'm gonna be paraphrasing Austrian health advisory because this is the one time that we've decided to not be utter shit, which is mainly because the government, for example, can't actually issue. That has to be done by the National Association of Health and Safety, which is an independent organization curated by hospitals and doctors. So, so if you contract, if you think you might have contracted the virus, go to a hospital. But most of all, this is very important. They put this in there. Do not panic. You're going to be all right as long as you do not have a compromised immune system.
Yep.
Because let me be real with you here. Coronavirus, it's just funky pneumonia.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
If
what
you
makes it
aren't
dangerous?
old, or if you aren't like already compromised health-wise, you should be fine.
Like the danger obviously that it poses is that it's a new strain of a virus.
Yeah.
We ain't got the antibodies for it, but
Yeah.
we know how to treat the symptoms of pneumonia.
It has a lower like death rate than the flu.
Because we're scared of it possibly for a good reason. If this gets out of control, it could be bad, but it won't get out of control.
We have pretty good control at the moment. Don't panic.
Yeah.
And some of that panic has manifested in a very bad way.
Like it is because I think it has to an extent to do with this idea of, obviously has to do with the idea of the unwashed Asiatic hordes, obviously.
They're
Yeah.
afraid of Chinese food.
Yeah, which
Fucking
like
MSG.
which is just so fucking stupid. Like I've genuinely seen that, and like I'm asking, you do realize that that's not like meat imported from China, right? That's like made from local foods.
But like, if people are afraid of MSG, it doesn't do anything. It's literally just dried kelp.
Yeah, I mean if you're allergic to it, but that's different.
Yeah.
Like I have a slight intolerance to it. Actually, I don't. I just have a kelp intolerance. But I can still eat it. I just shouldn't eat too much.
Yeah, there is actually nothing wrong with MSG. The one guy that actually made the study was apparently shown to have used bias because he didn't like Asians.
Yeah. But like the thing is,
Stupid question. What's MSG?
Monosodium glutamate. It's a thing that a lot of Asian restaurants use to replace mushroom because it's cheaper.
no, by the way, not just Asian restaurants.
A lot of places in general, but people know it for Asian food.
Like that's an important thing. Like you think this is exclusive to those, and it's like, but you eat at McDonald's in Europe, friend. I have news for you.
It's just a cheaper way to get umami flavor. That's it.
Yeah,
it's this thing. Okay.
Yeah, but like, how I put this?
Just don't be stupid. Don't That's the thing.
Like
I have
you're not
also
going to contract it from ooh, you're not going to contract it from the invading Asiatic hordes. If you're going to contract coronavirus, you're probably going to contract it from, oh, I don't know, the same way you contract any health issue.
Yeah, like
Literally, just wash your hands, you filthy fucking pigs.
treat it,
Uh,
treat it the way you'd want.
Yeah.
Treat it the way you'd want to combat a virus or like catch it, kill it.
Yeah.
If
Wash
you,
your hands
if you
and
get it,
practice
don't
basic
worry.
hygiene.
If you get it, don't worry. Go to a doctor, get an antiviral rest up done. Unless you're unless you're like 70 years old, under the age of 10, or you have like a fucking like autoimmune disease, you're fine. Shut up and stop worrying about it. You fucking hypochondriacs.
It's just fucking pneumo, like obviously relax.
Being
You're
like,
probably going. Yeah,
being,
you're going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop being a racial.
Going down the racism.
Stop being
Yeah,
a
you're
racial
going-
hypochondriacs. You piece of shit.
Yeah, you're probably going to be put under, quarantine, which is a safety measure.
Yeah, and you'll be fine.
I get it.
Also,
like-
react on the. There is one funny thing about this, not very funny, but like interesting thing. Way that this coronavirus thing immediately went political, and
Yeah.
you will see like
It took literally 3 hours from the first news for someone to like. You guys remember this insane woman from like America was like, because there was this plane where there was a confirmed case, and she wanted to have the US Air
down.
Force shoot that plane down.
Here's the thing, right? Is Americans are stupid, and we all know this. Americans are stupid. Americans have no brain. It's just burger. Yes, only bro.
It's just burger.
It's just a hamburger patty that's like half cooked in their head. Only bro in the chat. Is music playing? Yes. We're playing an album by a friend of mine, and the link to the Spotify will be in the description. So
I have seen like on Twitter. I follow a lot of funny people for various reasons. I have seen a lot of people that are like epic anti-communists being like, this is the moment when like the Chinese regime will fail because they have failed to contain the coronavirus and shit like that.
They literally haven't.
Yeah, they literally. And then you have this bird brain take, and then you have the other bird brain take, which is like this like horrific case of totalitarianism. Be Chinese regime is gonna fail
Literally fucking.
The bird
normal- Yeah, it's literally.
And then you have the big brain, which is like, this will cause the next financial crisis.
Okay.
I mean, there is a case to be made about that.
That's happening either way. That's happening either way.
Yeah,
But
but
it's
it's like
not
actually.
happening because of funky
fucking
pneumonia. Is the
coronavirus.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just to slow
Like, you know
down
what
the
this is-
economy.
Like, I don't know. Do any of you like fall asleep next to the window with like the window open sometimes, and then you wake up to like screaming birds?
No.
I mean, I wake up to screaming birds during the summer, but my window's shut.
Yeah. My windows are closed and I hear them. Yeah.
The birds here only scream at night.
Yeah, it's like, but basically it's like, you're woken up by some fucking horny birds screaming in the trees. So you have to get up and close the window. That's what this feels like. It's like, I wake up, first thing, like I open up Twitter, the first thing I see is like fucking, I don't know, this is, like I've seen some insane conspiracy theory.
Yeah. Speaking
Where
of conspiracy theories, I have seen takes that like this is like this was like chemical weapons released by either the Americans or the Chinese, depending on your perspective. And I have also seen take that this is Allah's revenge on China for mistreating the Uyghurs.
Oh yeah, no, I saw a lot of like Muslims on like a lot of like some Muslim like weird fundamentalist types were like, you see, they banned the Chinese from wearing hijab. Now they force the Chinese to wear hijab.
Now, I want to throw this out there. Coronavirus would make a really shitty
God
fucking
plague.
it would make a really, really shitty biological weapon. Just saying.
Okay. My Chinese professor, her mother has a very weird conspiracy theory. Um, her dad's a doctor, and he's just letting her believe this shit because she won't listen to him. They live in Dongbei, which is in northeastern China, by the way. So, her mother believes ardently that it's a biological weapon made by the United States government that only attacks the Han.
Yeah, I've seen shit
I
like
have
that.
seen that episode of Fringe.
See, okay, I've seen specifically this take. You wanna know the fucking funniest one I've seen from a fucking PRC nationalist?
What?
The coronavirus was engineered by, the government of Taiwan to, in order to destabilize, the the fucking
PRC,
yeah, the PRC,
so that they could
So that-
invade.
yes, that Taiwan could invade the mainland.
How is
and
Taiwan gonna invade the mainland
Pre-
even if they're sick?
Let me
They're
finish.
gonna go in
It
and get
gets
sick
better.
anyways.
It's get better. Let me finish. And I quote, reinstate Chiang Kai-shek's
Holy shit. That
Wow.
is powerful.
So we're gonna have the Nanjing Decade 2.
Yes. It's
Okay.
it's the Nanjing Decade virus.
Okay. So this sounds like the Israeli guy that I talked to like 3 years ago, who ardently believes that the rape of Nanjing was a false flag attack by, and I quote, Chinese Palestinians.
Do you guys remember the guy that thought the Mossad stole his shoes?
What?
There was this guy on Twitter who like lost one of his like sandals, and he thought the Mossad broke into his home and stole his shoe. He lives in Arizona, just for reference.
Okay. I think this is a good place to stop with this one. So I guess.
No, you see, I can see, I can picture you the analog of the 2020s that we're going to have in this new decade.
Mm-hmm.
So with analogs from the past. So essentially, it is going to be, it's going to be like Ataturk, Chiang Kai-shek's son.
Wait, which one?
The one that was in the SS.
Mr. Mamact. You know what's funny though?
Yes.
The funniest thing about him was he was half Chinese, half Japanese. He was adopted.
Yeah. And they're all gonna jerk off over a birthday cake. That's gonna be the 2020s.
So basically, I want to say something because Dengists on Twitter call me a quote sinophobe because I hate the Chinese government. This is real sinophobia. Shut the fuck up, you dumb pieces of shit. Just because I don't like Mr. fucking Xi Jinping doesn't mean I'm fucking sinophobe. It just means that have fucking brain cells. You fucking burgers. This is not the Cold War anymore.
Wasn't there like a guy that like called you just like Western Chiang Kai-shek?
They thought I was like a Kuomintang supporter at one point, even though like
Yeah.
I've literally like screamed about Jiang Jieshi before, and mind you, when I say Jiang Jieshi, it's out of habit. I realized after I said it because that's Chiang Kai-shek. I usually try to say names in their native language.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean,
also...
but like in like historicals, you don't tend to do that. You tend to like universalize them.
Yeah.
It's just habit, and also because I speak the language. So
Fair.
also because I with Chang and Sun Yat-sen and all these people, I already say their names in Chinese enough, so I'm used to saying that.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's like, which also reminds me of the favorite Dengist conspiracy, that Chiang Kai-shek was actually a Mongol, you see.
Wait.
Oh,
He
hell
was
yeah.
like a southerner.
Yeah.
He was like way south.
I don't fucking-
Also, who isn't part Mongolian?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Who?
So it wasn't the Nanjing decade. It was just the Yuan restore.
Yuan. Time to have the Yuan.
Yeah,
The
I
Yuan
think
were
it's-
okay, but you have to admit the Yuan dynasty was pretty funny.
Yes,
Yeah.
every Chinese dynasty was
I am
funny in its
emperor
own way.
now. Oh no, I am on fire. Goodbye.
Okay. So now we gotta move on to our last topic, which is going to be on Syria.
Yes.
Yeah.
So shit's been happening again, fellas. So last week we reported about how like the guy who's like the one of the highest like people in Aleppo wants the Syrian government to supply the PKK with weapons. I don't know if Crypto heard about this or not.
I have heard about that actually. It is also worth noting as well. The British media, specifically Sky News, has been trying everything in their fucking power to basically paint the rebels in Idlib as being sympathetic, and that if Assad gets into it, there's going to be a genocide and war crimes. And it's like there's been war crimes happening,
Don't
and
care
it was
version.
fucking occupied
There
by
has, like-
literal Al Qaeda. Like by literal Al Qaeda. That's not
I
hyper-
wanna. Yeah, I wanna note that Erdogan is literally allied with Al Qaeda. Literally.
Yeah.
I want to just say that like there is no stopping on the war crime train in Syria at this point.
Yeah, there's no stopping it. So the Russian airstrikes have been happening for the last 2 days, and they're fucking destroying the jihadists.
Yeah, not just the jihadists. A few hours ago, there was an airstrike on a Turkish position in northern Idlib.
They are just destroying
Actually, I
everything.
have an image of it, if I can get it up.
Yeah, another thing that like is new is that the Russians are now bragging about it.
Yeah, which
Uh,
essentially just Erdogan BTFO once more.
Speaking of,
Get
as I
it.
told Theo before the episode, Erdogan is basically just the Mussolini of NATO.
Yes.
He's now asking Merkel and Macron to help in Syria to prevent a quote humanitarian disaster.
No,
And now that their defense minister, Hulusi Akar, is saying, quote, the S-400s will undoubtedly be deployed, end quote. Turkey asks the U.S. to deploy Patriot missile systems?
Yeah, fat chance, my dude.
Fat
They-
fucking rip.
they're gonna just say no because it will fall into Syrian and Russian
Yeah.
hands.
Because
Because
the Turks are
Turks
fucking
are-
stupid.
They can't hold shit.
Also, there have been clashes between the SDF and the fucking FSA again. And it looks like it's a Kurdish counteroffensive.
Yes.
And they're getting fucking hammered because all of their fucking forces have been pulled off into Idlib.
So the Turks are now trying to get out of the position of them being surrounded in Idlib by attacking the
By starting a
Kurds.
fucking two-front war, yeah.
I mean,
It's literally just Hitler moving around divisions that don't exist anymore.
I mean, at this point, it's just one front, but they made it continuous. That's the
yeah.
thing.
They were losing. See, they were losing on all fronts slightly. Now they're losing on all fronts majorly.
Mm-hmm.
I have been seeing takes from like pro-Turkish, pro-jihadi accounts on Twitter that are like, actually the Turks are winning. You know why? Because the Syrian army is losing a lot of like high-ranking officers and such. And I am just saying that like, yeah, but like you're gonna lose. Then like the Syrian army is gonna be weakened. But then what? You are dead. You are out of territory. You're gonna be we're gonna be sitting in Turkey.
Something's going up here.
I would also like to note that a lot of the old an Arab army are incompetent dipshits,
Yeah.
and that's why the region was destabilized in the first place, because they had no clue how to fight insurgents.
Okay, now there are Turkish military convoys entering Syria every day.
Yeah.
And how long
Yeah.
until each of them gets fucking destroyed is the question, because the Russians are just gonna fucking bomb them every time.
Okay,
How long
so
can
like first you put the turkey into the oven, then you turn the gas up to 200 degrees Celsius.
What do you do if the turkey put itself in the oven and put the power onto 200 degrees Celsius?
Then we just sit and watch as putting in us. I just turn up the temp.
I mean, that's basically what we're doing here. We're watching a bunch of dipshits like
Throw
yoink
themselves
each
against
other's
war.
dicks. Yeah, it's just we're fucking like watching a bunch of dipshits duke it out because fuck Assad, but also fuck Erdogan.
The SAA has now captured Sheikh Akil from jihadist forces.
Who the fuck is Shikukill? I don't know, but it sounds
They
important.
also captured Kabtan al-Jabal.
Oh my,
They've
I
also
don't want to
captured
alert you guys.
Wahar.
I don't want to alert you guys.
These
Or
are all
rather,
these are
alert
all
your
cities
boner.
mainly. These are mostly cities.
Yeah.
They're like taking a bunch of shit now. They're fucking destroying.
You know all of those Al Qaeda positions in the south?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are all encircled now. If that's what you said is true, like full on encircled.
Time to open the Reddit account.
God damn it, Königsmark every time.
Some more shit that's going on though is
The real question is not how long the Turks can like keep sending aid to the jihadists and their like army. The real question is how long the Turkish army will keep up. Will like
Yeah.
allow Erdogan to like go on with this, because I doubt
thing
they
is,
are happy.
Yeah. The Turks are fully politicized behind Erdogan. The thing is, how long can they keep it up until they just collapse because they run out of fucking supply? Like, this is the problem with a force like this.
I have a funny.
There is another thing. There is another thing that needs to be talked about as well. As I think is the Turkish army is unlike any army in the West. The Turkish army is violently fascist, and like I mean, you have to be a fascist to get into the Turkish army. You have to swear fealty to the fucking presidency, and and you are indoctrinated with imperialist, neo-Ottomanist, and even jihadist bull. From the second you step into the fucking recruitment, the whole Turkish army should actively be neo-Ottoman fascists, and because of that, they are going to fight with the same fealty and the same fanaticism as the jihadists. They are to be treated as jihadists.
Yeah, that's
They'll
one
fight
of the
with
reasons
us.
why they are getting owned, because they are fanatical fighters, not strategic fighters.
Apparently, there was a bombing in Hatay.
Wow.
Okay. So something happened outside of Najara on the major road that goes to Idlib. Footage of a Russian airstrike shows that the jihadists immediately dropped their weapons to record the strike with their phones. Only one Turkish soldier stayed with his rifle in the hand and yelled at the jihadists to get in cover.
This is what
I would
internet
right.
does to your brain.
Right, before like
standing there
completely
watching the
fucking
fucking phone.
completely unrelated, by the way. I have an image to show you. Would you guys like to see Snoop Dogg in a wrestling match or in wrestling garb with the former president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad?
What?
What?
Green room text.
What?
He did say unrelated.
Explain.
I don't know. Like I just.
Apparently
There
now
is
there's
a lot going on in
Russian Su-24s are being targeted by manpads.
SU-24s or SU-25s?
Su-24
That's odd.
are now being targeted by manpads.
That's I honestly didn't know they still deployed those in foreign
I mean-
operations, but okay.
Why not? If you have air superiority, you might as well.
I mean, yeah, they're.
America
they're
had
fast.
the World War II bombers before like 2018 because
Yeah.
if you have air superiority, why not?
Yeah.
That's like the
This is-
funny thing. They are now shooting each other's planes down,
Yeah.
which will help any insurgents because the government having less planes is better.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I believe Only Bro asked a question in the chat, and that is, are Erdogan's approval ratings dropping? The correct answer to
don't
that
know.
is yes, they are dropping.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
obviously
actually, yes,
they
it
are,
is
but
true.
we don't know.
Yeah, but I think the important thing to note is whether or not his approval ratings drop, it doesn't matter. The Turkish government is a dictator. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you know where it matters? It matters in the east because anyone that doesn't like the government in the east goes to join the communists in the mountains to shoot cops.
yes, exactly.
I have
Like
something
those.
that happened yesterday that's really interesting.
Hmm.
You know, like do you know where Bak Ubasi is?
No.
Vaguely.
Near Hassa in Turkey.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then I know the area.
On yesterday, Wrath of Olive's operation room destroyed a vehicle belonging to Turkish-backed jihadists near Shengal. At least 7 were killed. Mind you,
Holy.
this is like really far from the part where the SAA and the ALF are. This is on the Turkish border.
Yeah.
Turks
Yeah, I'm gonna put it
BTFO'd.
this way. Like the reason that there's this huge media blackout and like literal suppression of communications in Eastern Turkey is because like all of those people are like they don't like the Turkish state. Like those people are fucking based. I love them.
The Wrath of
Like
Olives are
all the
powerful,
people that are like the core of Erdogan's support base are the fucking Euro Turks in the West.
Yeah, the Islamic
fuckers.
Euro Turks.
It's like you're a modern nation state, but also we want our empire back. This makes sense. This is a coherent ideology, guys.
The Wrath of Olives has been laying waste a lot, like since they started. They are basically Siege, but Demcon.
Does anyone have anything else to talk about with regards to Syria?
Again,
Turkey, or any of the
Only
countries
that the
involved.
US has announced
it is
full
okay.
support for Turkey.
Oh my
Who?
fucking gods! Burger breaks.
Okay, right. So one thing I do have to talk about, or I think might be worth to talk about, the German government has passed several laws trying to outlaw not just the PKK flag, but also the flags of the YPG and YPJ. They are also trying to make illegal the flag of Antifa International, which is a way for it's a flag of anti-fascists showing solidarity with Rojava. I will actually find a picture of that flag, actually.
I'm
The-
sorry, this just came in on the fucking live map. German. This is from the German Ministry of Defense. The German military currently sees no point or purpose in an active role in Syria, and this is basically in Erdogan's request.
Yeah. The German government is basically trying to ban that flag, and they've already tried to ban the YPG and YPJ flags and a bunch of other flags associated with Rojava. So it is important as well to. The thing is, like with Germany, of course, like you can literally just say, "Nah, fuck that. You've got no power." But it is definitely, again, it's worth mentioning that comrades and their families facing repression in the UK. It is definitely worth noting that the movement in Rojava, the Rojava Revolution, is going to become criminal in the West incredibly fucking quickly. It's worth bearing that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a natural phenomenon, I might add. It makes sense.
What the fuck? Okay, so apparently there are talks going on between the Turks, the FSA, and a fucking Ba'athist militia in southern Syria.
This is the true third position.
Apparently, these guys literally just operate in the Golan Heights. What are you doing, Turkey? Why the fuck would you antagonize Israel? That's like your only ally in the area.
For now.
For now.
Nuclear take the jihadists in Idlib are led by Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. Cracking beheading, Gromit.
You know, this is the, you know, all you should really need to know about the Turks is that they are basically allied to Israel. That's, yeah. You know, that makes the fact that they're allied to Al Qaeda even funnier.
It's almost like the anti-terrorism slant of all these fucking nations is farcical at best.
I mean, they are, like, the thing is that, like, anti-terrorism, what they mean is the terrorism that they don't like from the start. No state cannot be anti-terrorism because terrorism means political violence, and all states need violence to exist. So, yeah.
Anyone else have anything else to talk about for this one?
I think we all know what's going on.
Yeah. Also, this wave of fighting is creating like a huge, not going up into like all directions away from Idlib, which will be a problem because the weather is fucked.
Yeah. I've seen some very interesting takes about Syria actually recently on Twitter.
Which would be?
Essentially where they were trying to make like a comparison to the Chinese Civil War, in which Assad is Chiang Kai-shek and like the SDF is essentially the fucking Maoists.
I mean, there are Maoists in the SDF, TKP Mali, Tico.
I mean,
I know, I'm just mostly laughing at the idea of Chiang Kai-shek Assad.
I mean, if this means that the SDF is going to win, then based.
So what you're telling me here is that Erdogan is just Hirohito?
Yeah.
Jiang Bashar.
Well, actually, he'd beat Tojo because head of government, but yeah. I'll kill you.
You started this. You asked for it.
Yes, exactly.
That doesn't mean I have to like it or condone its results. I can be a hypocrite if I want.
No.
Alright. I think we're good, everyone?
Yeah, I think we.
Anyone have anything to plug or anything besides crypto? Also, wait, actually, let's plug crypto shirts because we have merch.
Ladies and gents, do you want absolutely fantastic far left merchandise? Do you want to flaunt the fact that you're an anarchist or a communist? Do you also want to show your support for Eastern Marshlands, myself, and local organising in Scotland? Then why don't you hop over to my store and maybe buy a shirt or two? They're about £12, maybe about $15, not including shipping. And all proceeds go towards helping me stay financially independent and also towards local org. I'll just drop the link in the chat. Go check it out. I just threw a couple of new designs up there a couple of minutes ago. Yeah, thank you in advance to buy anything. Share it around with your friends. Buy that shit. Help us up. And remember, comrade, EML doesn't endorse violence.
Yep. How about you, Codex Mark?
Crypto. Woke Calvin Coolidge shirt when.
Yeah, when. Yeah.
We gotta support the best presidential candidate for 2020.
Oh God.
Well,
It has to be the Obama pyramid.
My friend said that he would buy it.
See?
I will think on it. I will think on it.
It's gotta say woke Calvin Coolidge 2020. It's just a picture of Obama, like, but it's just a silhouette of that picture of Obama with his arms crossed.
No, it has to be the
Face, like,
Obama pyramid.
The Obamunid.
Oh,
I will
God.
not accept any substitutes for the Obama pyramid.
It's change
The
in
Obama
circles.
sphere.
No, the Obama sphere is not acceptable.
EML does not advocate the Obama sphere.
Yes,
the
we do.
EML are staunch supporters of the Obama pyramid.
We support the Obama pyramid as the president and Obama sphere as the vice president.
Yes!
Yes.
This is beautiful. It's everything I've ever
With the
asked for.
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
But
please, no.
It's
The Hillary Clinton cube.
yes.
Hillary Cubeton.
How about Grover Cleveland's toilet?
No. Let's end this.
All right. How about you guys? Anything to plug or anything to plug from you, Theo?
Do not follow me on Twitter.
If you follow me, I'll rant about fucking some random ass bullshit or whatever. I don't know.
Learn Chinese, be ready for 2040.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, I think. I
Chiang Kai-shek adopt you and join the Wehrmacht.
do not do that.
What does EML not advocate? Gotta get
EML does not
Chiang
endorse
Kai-shek
this
and join
Chiang
the
Kai-shek
Wehrmacht.
and Wehrmacht.
Speaking of, one thing before we go, the funny thing I found out was like that Chiang Kai-shek's adopted son was half Japanese, but also the funniest thing I found out was George Lincoln Rockwell's grandson's half Japanese.
EML does advocate race mixing.
EML does advocate race mixing to own the fascists.
But not to then join the Wehrmacht after being adopted by Chiang Kai-shek.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll see you all next week, and yeah,
I have a makarcha.
see you then.